Welcome, bonjour. Today we're going to go over our second beginner French class. Whether you attend the class or not, you can follow along with the full class notes posted below in the description. Also, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to help Saint-Esprit develop this program further. So in the second French class, we first saw that there are two types of articles. There are the indefinite articles we saw in the first video, un for masculine, une for feminine, and des for plural. We saw that they translate the article in English a or an, like in a car or an apple. But we also need to learn the definite articles. The definite articles translate the word the, like in the cat. The definite articles in French, however, will agree in gender and number with the noun, meaning that you will use a different article if the noun is singular feminine, singular masculine, or plural. For a singular masculine noun, we will use le. For a singular feminine noun, we will use la. And for any plural noun, we will use les. Also, if a noun starts with a vowel, we will simply use L apostrophe, like in l'aigle, which means the eagle. So let's put this in practice. From our first lesson, we know that our word for cat, chat, is masculine. So we will say le chat. We know that our word for window, fenêtre, is feminine. Therefore, we will say la fenêtre. And if we want to have more than one cat or more than one window, we will use les for both. Les fenêtres, meaning the windows, and les chats, meaning the cats. But what about our eagle? Well, if you have more than one eagle, forget that L apostrophe. We revert back to the plural definite article les. So the eagles will be les aigles, with our usual liaison between the ending s, because the word for eagle starts with a vowel. Secondly, we also saw that there are three types or groups of verbs in French, and that we can use some types of cheat sheet to conjugate any regular verb of each group. The first group are verbs ending in ER. The second group are verbs ending in IR, not to be mistaken with verbs of the third group ending in OIR or RE. There are many irregular verbs, but also many regular verbs. The regular verbs follow a simple pattern for each tense. Remember, we are still learning the present tense at this time. We will start by learning this cheat sheet for the regular verbs of the first group in the present tense. First, we need to take the infinitive form of a regular verb of the first group, that is the non-conjugated form of the verb. We will use the verb aimer, which means to love or to like. Remember that I said we could identify these verbs by the ending of their infinitive form? Here, you can see the ending is indeed ER. The letters before that are called the root. We need to be able to identify the root of a verb. Here, for example, it is AIM, M. We will first add this root right after each subject pronoun, like this. Je aime, which becomes J apostrophe because aimer starts with an A. Tu aimes, il aime, nous aime, vous aime, ils aiment. Next, you will need to learn the endings for the regular verbs of the first group in the present tense. You can repeat this over and over until you know it. That's how we do it in France as kids. E-E-S-E, O-N-S-E-Z-E-N-T. Again, E-E-S-E, O-N-S-E-Z-E-N-T. Now, all you have to do is read through it while remembering that we will have to make a liaison with the Z sound for the plural subject pronouns because our verb starts with a vowel, and that we do not pronounce the ending E. A quick note on that ending ENT at the very bottom. When you see the letters ENT at the end of a verb, only a verb, it is silent. Remember that because it will always be there. So here we go. The verb aimer in the present tense is conjugated as follows. J'aime, tu aimes, il aime, nous aimons, vous aimez, ils aiment. Again, j'aime, tu aimes, il aime, nous aimons, vous aimez, ils aiment. Now, a peculiar thing with the verb aimer is that when you want to say that you love something, in French, you say I love or I like the something, the something. It would be the same with the verbs for to adore or to hate and every verb of the like. This is a good opportunity to practice the definite articles we just saw before. For example, to say I love cats, we say j'aime les chats. I love the cats. To say I love cake, we say j'aime le gâteau. But keep in mind that for people, we will just add the name, like in English. For example, I love John is simply j'aime Jean. Now, remember I said that this cheat sheet could help you conjugate any regular verb of the same group? Well, here is another regular verb, commencer, which means to start. Using the same logic, we can remove the ending er and see that our root is commence, C-O-M-M-E-N-C. Then we add our endings E-E-S, E-O-N-S, E-Z, E-N-T. Magically, we can conjugate the whole verb in the present tense. Je commence, tu commences, il commence, nous commençons, vous commencez, il commence. Try to practice this after watching this video with the verb parler, which means to speak. I put some more in the exercise portion of the notes that you can find in the description below. Finally, we learn about adjectives in French. Here, you will run into another problem. As English speakers, adjectives only have one form for you, not even a plural. For example, for the adjective tall, you would say a man is tall, the same way you would say a woman is tall or 100 people are tall. It is always spelled and pronounced the same. Well, in French, you guessed it. Because an adjective modifies a noun, it has to agree in gender and number with that noun. Thankfully, you all know your gender and numbers because you've been recording the vocabulary with an indefinite article, like I asked you to. At least I hope so. Anyway, so while there are 4 forms for most adjectives, some of them have less, thankfully. You only have 2 pronunciations though. This is because the ending S for our plural adjectives is silent. Let's put this into practice with the French adjective for tall. The masculine adjective is grand. The feminine adjective is grande. So if I am a man, I say je suis grand. But if I am a woman, I would say je suis grande. And if we are several tall people, we would say nous sommes grands with an S in the end. But if we are several tall women, we would say nous sommes grandes with an S in the end. Since that S is not pronounced, you probably heard that it was pronounced the same way. As I said, 2 pronunciations, grand, grande. For your vocabulary notes, I'd like you to use the inclusive writing, which will help you identify both forms of the singular very quickly. So in our vocabulary books, we will write tall equal grand dot e. What comes after the dot is the feminine form. And of course, if the masculine or feminine is plural, we just add an S for 99% of our adjectives, at least. One very last note about the adjectives. French has a lot of exceptions, unfortunately, so some adjectives have a completely different form for the masculine and for the feminine. You will need to write them both in your vocabulary notes. For example, the adjective beautiful. The masculine is beau, and the feminine is belle. The masculine plural will take an X in the end instead of the S, but the feminine plural will just take an S. Another example, the adjective crazy. The masculine is fou. The feminine is folle. All these and more are available in the notes down below, so I invite you to learn them and practice with the exercises. Also, if you have any question, please write them down in the comment and I'll get back to you. In the meantime, I will leave you with some examples on the board that I will slowly read and that you can practice repeating right after me. See you on the next one. Au revoir. Fred est grand. Je suis français. Elle est américaine. Le gâteau est vert. Nous sommes fous. Vous êtes gentil. Tu es jolie. Elle a un chat orange.